Barkstall Elementary School is kindergarten through 5th grade. We're pretty diverse here at Barkstall. We have over 10 different languages that are spoken. We have a high multilingual language program with students, and we also have 2 self-contained special education classrooms.
Data drives what we do here at Barkstall. So we really rely on our data, what our students are doing, what our teachers are doing, and then we look at how we can apply that to improve student learning in our building.
So teachers use data all the time. It's every day. A lot of it's the informal assessments. It's through their teaching, the observation, the questions that they ask students, discussions that they get involved in, and then the work that students do. They use that data to drive their instruction for the next day or even for small groups. They also use data as formal assessments at the end of the unit topics for math and for reading. So they take a look at that together as a grade level to see, what went well with the data, what students picked up the standards, and then what students need extra support. And so where do they need to go back and do reteaching? They also look if this teacher did very well. Did the teacher do anything different? We use data daily just to guide our instruction and to gauge where our students are at.
At different points, students are involved. We have our MAP assessment 3 times a year. Students are looking at their scores, and then they are targeting a new goal for the next assessment period. We also are looking at fluency. That is our TLF here at Barkstall. So intermediate students are paying attention to what their reading rate is, and they're working on improving that. We use it to hype them and to help them want to get better at what they're doing.
When I tried to read chapter books, I usually would look for pictures to explain, but I couldn't read very well. And now I can read giant chapter books and books that big and stuff.
When students are invested in what they're doing and they know where they're going, we get so much better results with our students.
The students chose the slogan, "Today a reader, tomorrow a leader." They came up with our student-friendly slogan, and so they got to vote on the slogan choice, and then we had a big reveal. And then this year we have included posters in all our classrooms with our focus, and it's become part of our daily announcements. The students now are saying it and have it memorized. So as we continue to add that into the classroom, I look to see that the students become even more involved and take ownership with it.
What we've seen that has been most impactful with our students in tracking their data is, number one, they know what's expected of them. And so when we have them track data and they know what their goal is, they're going to work so much harder to reach that goal. And that has been just a game changer. When I walk into classrooms, it's so exciting. Students come up to me and say, "Hey, Miss Bradford, look, I met my goal." Or, I got an 80 on my reading fluency and I got 60 last week. So, students take a lot of pride in their work, and having students keep track of their data is a great way, for students to see how they're doing.
Boosts and reading at home, reading books from the library, and taking that 1-minute timer. It has made me a better reader.
Our targeted learning focus has led to more explicit and systematic instruction. We're very mindful of what we choose to teach, and it's always tied to the data. And then if we're not real sure, we go right back and we research, and we find our research that supports our targeted learning goal.
Data has really strengthened our Tier 1 instruction because we have our teachers looking at data to see how their lesson went and to see if all of our students met their learning targets and their learning goals. And so we gauge how many students met that learning objective. And our comparison usually is 80%. So if we have 80% of our students that met that learning target or learning goal, then we know that lesson was solid. But if we have less than 80% of students that didn't make it, then we go back and reteach the whole group.
I think the students are starting to understand the importance of why we have our focused learning goal that we want to make students better readers. And I know the upper elementary, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, some of the teachers have used what we have to do for our evaluation process. It's called our student learning objective. And so they actually tied that in with fluency this year. And so some of the students have started setting goals, and the teachers have been doing weekly progress monitoring and have used that in the classroom. The students are starting to see that we're focusing more on their individual progress now. And I think that has made them in turn excited about where they're going, and they see themselves in a positive light.
It was hard because a lot of times we had to read to do stuff in school, and it was hard because I always had to get pulled in to do stuff. Now that I'm getting better at reading, it's funner to read. I can read bigger stories.
Where it's going to go next is that more teachers, I think, will strengthen their leadership and see how they can contribute. We have a lot of teachers that have great ideas. So by growing our leadership base in the schools, we'll be able to implement more strategies and see different ways that we can support our students. I think we're starting to see more teachers sharing grade levels as opposed to being mindful of just their class, so that they're invested in all the students as opposed to just the 20 that they're in charge of.
The advice I would give to other schools who are trying to use data is to, number one, identify what it is that you want your students to learn, and then find what is the best assessment to use to be able to gather the data. And then once you have your learning focus, you have your assessment determined, and you've collected your data, then you have to determine what you're going to do with that data. And that's very important because if you just assess students just to assess them, you don't get anything out of it. So you want to be very clear and purposeful on what you're assessing your students and how you're doing it, and that you can compare that data over time so you can see, how students are progressing.
I think what makes all this hard work worth it is knowing that we're helping our students and that we're putting great practices in place, and we're growing our teachers to strengthen them to be better in the classroom. And as an end result, our school will be a better place for everybody.